Welcome to GoldrushRP and this little guide on how to do medical RP. If you're new, this guide is just for you, but if you are a seasoned player, you might find a few tips and tricks to make your medical RP a little more fun and a little less taxing. Role-playing your injuries can add a whole new layer of depth to your character. It may even take your character on a new path you never expected, so don't shy away from it. There's gonna come a time, sooner or later, that your character will be downed. When a character is down, they're not dead, but injured, unconscious, and should be RP'd with as such. You can say you dropped someone, but don't say you killed them. The exemption to this, of course, is execution and duels, as those are lethal events. What you see injury-wise is not what you got. While a character may look like they got their head, legs, and arms all blown off, you should only RP as they've just been shot. How a character is hurt, how badly they are hurt, is entirely up to the player playing that character. No player can god mod an injury upon another character without prior consent. When your character is down, they can't speak, it's okay to moan and groan a little bit, but you shouldn't have any coherent thoughts. When your character drops, you will have a respawn timer and the option to call a doctor. If you are alone, you can choose to wait out the timer and respawn at the several respawn points on the map. Your belongings will still be with you, and if you were with a horse you own, it will have gone off to a nearby stable. If you are in an active scenario, you may not use the respawn to get out of the situation. This is fail RP and reportable. If you were dropped in a scenario, but your body has since been abandoned, you may use the respawn after 20 minutes of no interactions with or around your character. If you use the respawn timer, you do not remember the events leading up to your injury, or anything while you were down. You must forget everything that happened 30 minutes before you were dropped. If you respawn, your character is still hurt. If the injury sustained warrants, you should still seek out a doctor for treatment. Tonics can be purchased from doctors, and they can be used to revive downed players. Tonics are not a magic fix for an injury or a replacement for being hurt. When a tonic is used, it should be RP'd as if any wounds were merely first aided. Your character should still be injured and RP'd as such. If a tonic is used, you cannot re-engage in a scenario. Your character is hurt and in pain. The wounds are still there, just merely bandaged up. If the injury sustained warrants, your character should seek out a doctor for treatment. Tonics may never be used in active PvP. At every doctor's office there stands the local doctor, Nigel. When player doctors are low on staff, Nigel can be used to revive a downed character or fix an injury. There is a fee for his services. If treated by Nigel, the injury can be RP'd as fully medically treated. Nigel can also be used to summon a player doctor to the doctor's office. If one is nearby and available, they will respond. This should be used for medical emergencies only. When downed, you have the option to call a doctor. When you call a doctor, all the doctors that are on shift will get a temporary ping on their maps with a general location of where you are. Calling a doctor does not guarantee one will arrive. If a doctor is available and near enough to respond, they will ride to your location and attempt to find you. Do note, if your body has fallen into an inaccessible location, such as off a cliff onto a ledge, or into deep water, a doctor will not be able to revive you, and you should choose to respawn instead. There are times when animals glitch out and turn invisible for other players. If this happens, all that approach the scene will crash. If you see this happening, you will have to respawn. Medical treatment is done through text-based RP. Your access to the text commands are through the console. To open the console, hit T. The /tag command is used to place floating text on your character. These tags should only be used to describe what can be observed with the eye. To remove a tag, just use the tag command again with nothing following. The /hurt command is used to describe injuries when prompted. Examples: hurt, stable vitals, hurt, bullet lodged in right leg, hurt, shrapnel and wound. The /do command is to describe what your character is doing. Do flinches in pain, do coughs up blood, do water drains from lungs. The /try command is used to add a success fail roll to an action. Try bleeding stops, try heartbeat returns. This can be a fun way to add a little randomness to your actions. As noted previously, no player can decide how hurt you are, and this includes the doctors. It is up to you to decide how you are injured, where that injury is, how bad it is, and if treatment progression is successful. The doctor will only respond to the prompts you give them. Injuries are not what you see what you got, but you should make the injury match how you were hurt. If you were shot, you should have some sort of gunshot wound. If you fell, you should have some bruises, a bump, a sprain, or a break. If you were mauled by an animal, you should have bites or scratches. Do keep in mind the year is 1898. What may be considered survivable injuries by today's medical standards would have been lethal injuries in the past. If you present with what would be a lethal injury, you will be asked if you were killing your character. And please keep it above the belt. Medical RP involving genitalia can be very offensive to others. The doctor interaction with patients can be broken down into 3 key parts: assessment, where we discover what is wrong; treatment, while we fix what is wrong; and aftercare, for pain management and how to take care of your injury. When they first find you, a doctor or first aid giver will be checking your vitals. They're looking for your heart rate, blood pressure, and breathing. If you're only mildly hurt, your vitals would be stable. If you were bleeding out from a wound, internally or externally, your vitals would be low. If your vitals are dropping fast, you'd be crashing. If your heart rate and breathing have completely stopped, you'd have no vitals at all. Your vitals might be high if you were exposed to a toxin such as a snake bite, or stress, or disease. If you drowned, you wouldn't be breathing at all. If your lung's been punctured, your breath would have gurgling sounds. If your lung was deflated, you'd have a rattle with every breath. Think of how you were hurt and your body's reaction to it, and that is what we're looking for. Next, they're going to be looking for your injuries. You should only describe what would be visible to the eye. They are looking for the location of an injury and the type of the injury and anything else that might be noticeable when looking upon it. Some examples of mild injuries: if you got knocked on the head, you might have a hard bump on your head. On the losing end of a bar brawl, maybe you have a black eye, broken nose. If you got kicked by a horse, maybe your ribs are bruised. Got lucky and just got grazed by that gunshot wound? Just a mild graze to the arm. Some examples of moderate injuries: maybe you got stabbed in the leg and you have a knife wound in your thigh. Maybe you have a bullet lodged to your shoulder. Maybe a bullet went right through your arm. Maybe you tripped and fell and got a hairline fracture to your arm. Some examples of major injuries: if you got pistol whipped, maybe you fractured your skull and a soft bump is developing. How about you fell off the bridge and now the bone's sticking out of your leg? What if you got gut shot and now dark oozing blood is pouring out of your abdomen out of some internal injury? Maybe there's pink foam coming out your mouth because you got shot in the lung and you're bleeding into it. Have fun and be creative. Do know the more major the injury is, the more involved the medical interaction will be. Some of the more complex injuries requiring specialists. We do ask you try to be realistic. There are not many parts of the human body you could get shot through without causing major internal trauma. A bullet blasting into you is one thing. A bullet having enough energy to blow out the other side is going to wreck you. Now that they have an idea of what and where the injury is, they're going to be taking a closer look at it. Has an artery or vein been nicked or severed? Are there any bones obviously broken? Are there any clues that there might be internal damage to organs? Are there any signs of internal bleeding? Is there a projectile or part of a projectile lodged in the wound? Are there any foreign objects in the wound? A piece of a shirt, mud from the road, a tooth, or an arrow? Once the wound is fully assessed, the doctor can begin treatment. Depending on the injuries presented, the doctor will begin various treatments. You may get prompts along the way asking how your character's body is responding to treatment. Treatment can take only a few minutes up to over a half an hour for severe surgical cases. Once treated and on your feet, you're gonna still be hurting. Your doctor will be asking you a few questions and will give you instructions on care for your injuries. If your injuries were severe, it may be recommended that you come back for a recheck in a few days. Days refer to in-game days. If you were revived and are a little too tall or a little too short or missing some important body parts, don't worry. Just use /load skin to reset your character's appearance. When there is an incident where multiple people are downed, patients will be assessed and then treated in the order of urgency. By their nature, mass casualties may take some time for the doctors to treat everyone involved. It is helpful in these multiple player incidents for downed players to use tags. Please use tags to describe your visual status so that doctors and first aid givers can keep better track of the scene and move things along faster. Please tag with the type of wound and location of that wound. Please tag when first aid has been done. Please tag again when treated. Remember, tags are only to be used for things others would be able to see. To remove the tag, just use tag again with nothing follow and it will clear. If you get bitten by a snake, fall off something a bit too high, or get exposed to one of the various illnesses lurking in the Commonwealth, you will want to come find a doctor so they can fix you up. Common signs of illness are coughing, vomiting, itching, and fatigue. Do remember, it's 1898. Many diseases we know of today were not discovered in that time. Keep your references to the time period. Lethal illnesses such as rabies or tuberculosis are perma conditions. If you present with these diseases, be prepared that you are permaing your character. If you're making the choice to permanently kill off your character from an incident, a doctor will be called to pronounce your character dead. You will be prompted to answer a few questions. The doctor will ask if you confirm perma. The doctor will make an attempt to identify your character. The doctor will attempt to approximate your character's age. And the doctor will examine the body to see if there's an obvious injury that caused your character's death. Your character's body will then be taken to the nearest doctor's office to be put into cold storage. At that point, you are clear to log off. You may never return as that character again. They are dead. And now you can go out and RP those injuries with confidence. See you in County.